Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Akari Chaba from the Computer Science Department at the College of Business and Technology, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you all to the Computer Science Alumni Day. Speaking on behalf of the CS faculty and students, it's truly an honor to host this event and welcome our esteemed alumni back on campus. Having us today is not only a source of pride, but also a reminder of the lasting impact Northeastern Illinois University has on its students. Welcome back, and thank you for being here to inspire the next generation of computer scientists. To our current students, nothing excites us more than creating opportunities for you. While this is our first Computer Science Alumni Day, it's not the last. The CS department already has plans to establish this event as an annual tradition, allowing our students to connect with alumni more often. At this time, I would like to invite Dean Mike Bedell to give you a very warm welcome message and officially kick off today's event. Following Dean Bedell, you will hear from Professor Shiwei Wang, the Computer Science Department Chairperson.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Is that warm enough? We're glad you guys are here. Alums, welcome back. Thank you for being here and taking the time. I know the students will wander in as they awake because they are students, right? Weren't we all there? Never mind. Okay. So, but I hope it's a great day. I think this is a cool concept to connect the students with the folks in industry who have gone before you as role models and examples of what's possible with your NEIU education. So I'm going to leave it at that because I want the pros to handle most of the talking today. And but again, students, glad you're here. Alums, even more glad you're here. And students, you need to start texting your friends and say, get here, this is really good. So, right? Because even the social media team is here taking your pictures already. So everybody, have a great day. Shiwei, you want to come on up and introduce? And so one of the coolest things I'm going to mention that this guy led as an effort for the college is we have our first ABET accreditation. And it's in the computer science degree program, which is the coding track, AKA software engineering, as I like to think of it. And so I'm delighted, you know, we have these shirts we wear that have the ACSB accreditation on one sleeve. What you can't see today is I now have ABET on the other sleeve, and I'm proud that we've gotten that, because this means that if you're in computer science, that your degree is now one of the premier degrees in the country, if not the world. So, Shiwei, come on up, and you know, this guy's a great change agent for this part of the college. So, anyway, welcome, glad you're here. So, Shiwei.
Well, thank you, Dean Bedell. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I am Dr. Shiwei Wang, and I am Chair and Professor of Computer Science Department. Today, first of all, to our excellent computer science alumni, I would like to say welcome back. And you know, your alma mater is always very proud of you, and we're all very proud of you. So welcome home, actually. And to everybody, our students, our faculty members, and our staff, and also our guests, welcome to the inaugural Computer Science Alumni Day. I just want to talk a little bit about the history of our alumni activities. So more than 3 decades ago, okay, more than 3 decades ago. The computer science department actually launched our computer science alumni panel, okay? This is a long tradition, and you heard me saying more than 3 decades ago. This is the third time I say that, right? And last year, we had our 33rd computer science alumni panel. All right, so this long-standing tradition actually embodies our strong ties to our alumni and also our commitment to strengthening the connection between our student, faculty, and our alumni, right? And because that event actually has had great success, and we talked and we've decided to bring it to the next level. We wanted to provide this more comprehensive and in-depth platform that allows our faculty member, our student to connect, to engage with our alum, right? So this new signature event of computer science really focuses on connection. When I say connection, I'm talking about building new connections and enhancing and deepening our existing connections. Also, I want everybody to take this opportunity to explore potential collaboration and partnership opportunities. So I know some of you may graduated in the past few years, and some of you probably did a little bit earlier, and you might be interested in the recent development of our lovely your home department, computer science department, right? So I just want to spend a little time to share with you our recent development, our accomplishment that we all made collectively. So one of them, I would say, would be our new programs. And in the past few years, we launched the Bachelor's of Science degree in cybersecurity and in information technology. And to make it a little more exciting, we actually proposed a new Bachelor's of Science in artificial intelligence. We're talking about AI every single day, right? So we proposed that, and it went through the university's governing process. It was just approved last week by the Illinois Board of Higher Education. Well, that's very exciting, right? And I will make this clear, okay? So now it is with Higher Learning Commission. So as soon as they approves it, we will be able to offer it, hopefully, okay? If everything goes smoothly, we will be offering it in this fall 2026. By that time, we will be one of the 2 public institutions in Illinois that offer this program. Is that amazing? Right, that's really exciting news, and like what I'm saying, we're all proud of you, but we hope you also take pride in your alma mater, right? So that's our development of the new degree programs, and also we created new minor programs alongside these new bachelor's degrees. So just to give people more options. At the same time, computer science department has been diligently working on a lot of things to expand our footprint at different scale, right? So one of them being the offering of the cybersecurity program at the University Center of Lake County. So basically, we're extending our offering in that particular, and I think it's a very high demand area, to Grace Lake area, okay? And of course, when we have this AI up and running, that's gonna be the proposal again for our AI program. And at the same time, our expansion goes beyond the United States. And in the past couple of years, well, actually I would say about 3 years ago, we established this dual master degree program with Lucerne University of Applied Sciences and Arts in Switzerland, okay, which basically allows their student to come to NEIU to complete the program, so they will get both degrees, one from NEIU, one from Lucerne University. Now we're actually negotiating the new contract, and we want to extend this to a bi-directional collaboration. So our student will also be able to do the same thing, so they can go to Switzerland and complete the second half of the degree, so they get degrees from both institutions. So that's that, and at the same time, we're also exploring different partnership, collaboration opportunities with South American institutions. Okay, so just want to let everybody know that we're diligently working on multiple aspects to expand our footprint. Okay. At the same time, like Dean Bedell just mentioned, that we've got the ABET accreditation, which is really a big deal in higher education, particularly for engineering and technology education. We got that ABET accreditation for our computer science degree, a bachelor's degree. And this is a remarkable milestone for the computer science in our history, okay? Like Dean Bedell mentioned, this means that now your degree is has a higher value, it's more valuable, okay? And it's a recognition for the quality of the program. And we're, of course, in the process of getting more accreditations for other degrees, okay? So our goal is to, at the end, ensure that all of our degree offerings are ABET accredited, okay? So that's pretty exciting as well. And a little bit about the computer science enrollment, okay? Computer science department saw a 10% yearly increase in our enrollment credit hours, enrollment. 3 years in a row from 2022 to 2025. That's a big success for everybody, right? That's a big success and big growth for our department. That actually help us, remain one of the largest department on campus. That also showcases the high demand in the higher education and high demand in, well, I would say the higher education in computer science or computing related majors, because now, hopefully by this fall semester, we will have 4 computing majors, right? Computer science, cybersecurity, IT, and also AI. And other than that, we also launched our annual hackathon. We call it the NEIU Hackfest in 2023. The first year, we've got, 40-some students. And Professor Chaba was part of that. And, well, I'm not saying he was part of the participation, but he was part of the planning committee, right? So the first year, we've got 40-some students. And most of them, I would say almost all of them, were from NEIU. And the second year, we've got more than 80 students. And we already got some student participants actually coming from other institutions in Chicagoland. Last year was our 3rd annual hackathon. We've welcomed more than 130 students from more than 15 institutions across Chicagoland. We've got more than 200 registrations, actually. So from that perspective, we expanded our footprint as well. We increased our visibility. We got more students coming to our campus to understand more about our program, our institution, right? And that's also a great opportunity, just like today, to expand your professional network. And you got a chance to talk to people from everywhere to understand what they're doing, right? And you can also exchange your ideas with these people. So that's that. And at the same time, we highly, highly value the importance of doing research. And I know that we actually got today's keynote speaker. She is actually doing her PhD at Northwestern. So we actually emphasize heavily on research alongside teaching. The reason I'm saying that is our faculty members in computer science department work really hard to try to secure funding support for research for education purposes. We've got millions of dollars in research funding, or the funding to support student success and their education, building their educational path, okay? Experiential learning, all kinds of things. So I want to share that because I want everybody to understand the big picture of what we've been doing, and that is instrumental to our student success. The last thing I was going to mention is that we have been working also very diligently to explore opportunities to help our students bridge the gap between what we learned in our classroom and what you do in the real-world practices. So we have been in different discussions. We have been working with the dean's office. We have been working with other units on the campus to create this experiential learning opportunities and also other professional training opportunities to help you bridge the gap and also get you prepared for your career, professional career. So during today's event, I encourage our alumni to learn a little more about the department's growth and think about what you can do to help us, to help propel the department and our students to the new heights. But at the same time, I also invite you to reflect on what your alma mater can support you in your career, okay? Thank you all for joining us today. I know this will be a great event today, and I also want to extend my thanks to the planning team, the planning committee for this event, Professor Chaba, Professor Isle, and our business manager, Ann Kohler, and also we're grateful for the consistent support from the Dean's Office of College of Business and Technology. My opening remarks is a little long, but I want to really share our recent development. I hope you can all join us in celebrating our accomplishment that we collectively achieved in the past few years. Okay? With that, I want you guys to all enjoy the day and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Wang. To our current students, in a few years, you'll be invited to join us as an alumni. When you graduate, please keep NEIU in your mind, heart, and sight. And please come back and visit us more often and stay connected with us and fellow students. I'm gonna give you some information about the program today. Next thing we have will be our keynote speech. And then after that, we have a career path roundtable that starts at 12 p.m. For that session, I wanted you to enjoy lunch while participating in different conversations with our alumni. We'll have 8 tables there, and each alumni will host a different table that can be that you can discuss with them. AI careers, you can talk about cybersecurity jobs, you can talk about non-traditional job opportunities for computer science students and different topics. So each of our alumni will host one table, and you're welcome to join and talk to them. And then you can rotate between tables. We'll give you about 2 hours, so you have the time to talk to all our alumni, all right? And then we'll wrap it up with the Computer Science 34th Annual Panel. And I'll give you more information about that later on. I will be co-moderating that session with Carla Kubert, our alumni as well, from 1990, right? All right. Okay, so next thing I want to show you will be a QR code that you can scan to check in for at the opening remarks session. Please scan it and fill out the information needed. And then at the end of each session, there will be a QR code where you can scan to check in. All right? All right. Were we able to scan the QR code? Yes, perfect. So while you are in college, many students think that graduation is just a check mark you place on your checklist, right? And then after you graduate, it's time to find a job. And that's another check mark that you can check off your list. But you never know what the future will hold for you or what the future is holding for you. And Mara has a story, a beautiful story to illustrate that. Who is Mara? Mara, please stand up. Mara Oluwa is an alumna of the Computer Science Department and current PhD candidate at Northwestern University. Mara has a very inspiring story to tell our students and how her journey from NEIU to Northwestern holds some valuable lessons, and how it took some inspiring, unexpected path. I would like to invite her to the stage to deliver it in her own words and feelings. Mara, please come up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mara Ulloa. I am a PhD candidate at Northwestern University in the Computer Science Department, where I am 1 year away from finishing my PhD. It is really an honor to be back here at Northeastern. I try to come back as often as I can, but even though it's like literally right there, life is busy, but here I am this morning giving you this keynote speech that kicks off our first Alumni Day at Northeastern. So Professor Chava invited me today to talk to you about like my work, what I do for research, and how my years here at NEIU helped me realize that I wanted to do research after NEIU. So here's a very broad agenda. I'll talk to you briefly about my PhD researcher, but also I started at Harold Washington College before coming to NEIU. And then I'll talk to you about a lot of the things I did while here at NEIU, and finished by talking about what it's been like at Northwestern the last 4 years. So after what I consider a really positive experience here at NEIU, I started my PhD with an interest in CS education research, especially in these nonprofit spaces that we have across Chicagoland. And after that, I went back to the NSF NCAR a second time because I had been there during undergrad for an internship as well. And I was working in this government lab environment, so nonprofit government lab. And then in academia, I had to pick something to research, right? So I shifted to the AI space in academia. Specifically, I studied the design of AI-driven technology for clinicians and patients. And more recently, so last summer, I worked at Microsoft, so that's an industry, to explore the use of generative AI in software engineering. But when I was sitting where you are today, I was not really considering research as a career. In fact, when I started my academic career, so back at Harold Washington, I wasn't even sure what computer science was, meaning that my path to the PhD has been everything but linear. So here's Harold Washington College. I remember as like a first generation DACA student back then, I kind of didn't know how to sign up for college, so I kind of just went and took every important document I owned, asked how to sign up, walked in, signed up. But while I was there, I was actually working a full-time job, going to college part-time, and that meant that I did my homework on Sundays. And figuring out when can I go to tutoring because it overlaps with my work schedule was really hard. But then something wonderful happened. All of those weekends that I spent working on homework, those good grades that I kept, resulted in getting the Dream.US scholarship, which at the time was one of the first and now largest DACA scholarships. So I transferred to NEIU in 2018. So when I arrived here at NEIU in 2018, I became a full-time student for the first time ever. I didn't get here with a 5-year plan. I didn't have a plan. I was just remember coming to campus and feeling, oh, I'm gonna get lost here. And I did, but it only happened once. And so when I got here, I was simply adjusting to this new environment, going to college full time. And when you are the first in your family to do something, or you don't have a manual to know what you're supposed to do at college, I think you just end up doing a little bit of everything to try to figure out what you're supposed to do. So you do things like you collaborate with, you peer lead programming classes because thank you to Professor Chava, I was offered that opportunity while I was here. And you collaborate with peer leaders because you receive trainings and you attend meetings with professors, and it helps other students learn, but it also helps you deepen your understanding of programming concepts. I also helped run the Computer Science Society Club, because I enjoyed building community while I was here at Northeastern. And I stayed late on campus because, well, you always meet someone new or you learn something new at these kind of events. I also did research with the SCSC, so the Student Center for Science Engagement across the way here. And because it's an opportunity to do research during the summer with professors. I also presented this work at the end of summer, so at like conferences like SACNIS that are meant to help underrepresented groups learn about science and do research. And other cool things that happen are like, we have a group here of computer science students, but it's cool to meet people that don't do computer science because computer science blends so well with so many other things. Then after doing that research, you apply for the McNair Scholars Program because they'll help you apply for grad school. And they pair you with a research mentor to do summer research. They also give you a crash course on what research is all about. And you meet other people like yourself that are highly motivated to do well while they're here at this university. The McNair Scholars Program is named in recognition of Ronald E. McNair, the photo you see here, who lost his life in the Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986. And it's meant to increase the number of low-income first-generation and underrepresented college students who pursue and complete a doctoral degree. And we have this program here at Northeastern. And I think I skipped a slide. Okay, yeah, okay. And you also join these random social clubs on campus because, as I said, computer science is great. We all love computer science, but you want to meet people with other backgrounds. You can do things like make food for unhoused individuals, fundraise for good causes, and it'll make your life more interesting because you'll know about campus events that are happening beyond your department. And you volunteer locally because you find joy in taking shelter dogs for a walk on a nice spring day, as we're getting these days now, and you need the mental and eye strain break from your devices anyway. You volunteer at food shelters here on campus and in the community. You fundraise for community service because it helps someone, and you volunteer on Net Day because you want to know why these events happen and how these events happen. And you help rate hiring talks of new faculty because those people, as we heard today, will shape our department for decades to come. Okay, so when I was doing all of these things, I peer leading the CSS, the SCSC research, McNair Scholars Program, social activities, volunteering, I wasn't just building a resume. So all of these activities translate really well to skills like leadership, communication, problem solving, and it also taught me how to navigate ambiguity and work with others, and so much more. But at the time, really, what I was trying to do is understand the world around me and this environment that I was existing in now. This helped me understand what I enjoyed, what I didn't enjoy. It helped me find supportive peers, professors, and begin to figure out what kind of computer scientist I wanted to become. So, inspired by my research, I want to encourage all of us to do a little bit of self-reflection and think about what kind of computer science do you want to become, and what do you need to do right now while you're still here at NEIU to get there. So eventually, during the last fall semester, my last fall semester at NEIU, so that's in 2020 during lockdown, I was awarded a major state award from the governor of Illinois for these contributions to our university and to the community. Dr. Rachel Trana, a professor here at the time, nominated me for this award. I had peer-led for her, I had done research with her, I had taken her classes, and I had asked her for reference letters. And through those interactions that I had with her, she felt like she knew me enough to think that I deserved this award, and so she sent in her nomination. But the secret, again, is that while I was doing those things, the clubs, the peer leading, the volunteering, I don't think I knew that I was doing anything extraordinary. And I don't think, I think like when you don't know what you're supposed to do, like you just kind of do everything, like I've been saying, like juggling peer mentor duties, running clubs, spending my free time doing my homework. But I didn't realize that this lack of knowing how you're supposed to behave in college or how it's usually supposed to go was actually a skill. It just meant that we don't know where the limits are, so we can like do a lot more than we think we can. So this still happens to me at my current university. So I've received a fellowship from the National Science Foundation. I didn't know the significance of this fellowship until I saw how other people reacted to it, my advisor and my peers who come from bigger universities. And I went to Microsoft last summer for a research internship, and I didn't know the names of the famous tech leaders there before going, to the point where another intern was like, you know who Bill Gates is, right? So what I mean is like, there's so much we don't know, and it's okay not to know everything. But what really matters is like staying focused, doing the work. That's how you build real skills that then you'll use inside and outside of your classroom, and really gain an understanding of how software comes together, not just through the things we learn as computer scientists, but how it interacts with the world and what it means for society. So the time that we spend here at NEIU is what positions us to do great things or have greater opportunities once we leave. And I suspect that a lot of you here today are doing a lot of the same things that I was doing, because we don't know what the rules are of how things are supposed to be. We often end up working twice as hard, or we have to work twice as hard, and then we don't realize that it's actually pretty remarkable. So if you feel like I'm just getting through the day and there's so much I don't know and it's overwhelming, I want you to take a step back and look closer at what you're building. Yes, you're working hard, you know that, but you're also facing challenges very likely that are unique to you, that the rest of us may or may not understand. So I think that just by being here at NEIU, in this community, you're likely outperforming expectations. So I want to talk to you now about when I started here in IU, right? Like my goal was really simple. It was like Professor Chavez said, like get the degree, get out, and go get a job. And that is a very noble and necessary and very realistic goal to have. But that one summer where I did research, that it was because I asked Professor Akadi for an internship or how do I get an internship, and he suggested I start with working with Dr. Trana, Dr. Yakubeli, and Dr. Adler, who were all professors here at the time. But this happened because I asked them, like, how do I get an internship? When I did this summer research internship, I felt like I wasn't just solving a problem like we tend to for a grade in a class. I was looking for an answer that didn't exist yet, because that's what research is. That's how it works. You're investigating a topic to create new knowledge about it. And let's look at this picture here, which really shows what a PhD is. So imagine that the circle, the outer large circle, contains all of human knowledge. By the time that you finish elementary school, you know a little bit. That's the blue circle in the middle. By the time you finish high school, you know a little bit more. That's the green circle that's outside of the blue circle. By the time that you finish your bachelor's degree, you gain a specialty. We're all gaining a specialty in computer science when we get a bachelor's degree. When you get a master's degree, that deepens the specialty. So the light red circle grows that bump over there, and that's a master's degree. When you read research papers, it takes you to the edge of human knowledge, and that's the reddish circle expanding outward. And once you're at the boundary of human knowledge, you focus. That square there that is circled, and then as a PhD student, you push at that boundary for years. That's what I've been doing, until one day, the boundary gives way, and that tiny bump of knowledge is the PhD. If you Google the illustrated guide to a PhD, it explains it better. But what I now realize is that my background, having to scrape resources, having to teach myself things that my family couldn't, having to go from being a DACA student to now a permanent resident in this country, et cetera, actually made me a better researcher and thinker. Because we as like students at NEIU potentially, like we're not used to having always the answers for how do we face challenges, not just in the classroom, but out in society. So if we can learn to excel while we're here at college, then a PhD or whatever comes next, whatever path you're going towards next, just becomes another challenge to rise to. Because any challenge you are facing, whether it's health related, resources, or something else, those things prepare you to succeed in the future. But it only happens if while you're here at NEIU, you fully commit to what is being offered to you so that wherever you go next, you can meet it with confidence. I'm gonna grab some water. So right now, I'm in the final years of my PhD. And I'm going to be honest with you. There are very, very few people in academia who started where we are. Often, the people that are in academia, so at the PhD level, grow up knowing what a dissertation is, or one or both parents went to college, or even have a PhD. Or more succinctly, and you can Google this, people around me know what is called the hidden curriculum. They know how you're supposed to behave in these spaces. They know like the hidden tricks and how to get ahead. And so when I sit in those rooms, I think that there's this silence of the people who aren't there. More people who understand what it's like to navigate systems of inequity and thus have a perspective that isn't very common in academia. And I know now that when we are in undergrad, especially at smaller universities, like in a bachelor's degree, we're doing so much already by being here, but we're not as exposed to what is a PhD, what is research. So Professor Iacobelli, who is now at Loyola but was here before, told me that out of my graduating CS cohort, I was the only person to pursue a PhD. But the McNair Scholars Program here, the Student Center for Science Engagement that we have on campus, are a huge help to learn about these things. And I do know now that we have a lot more research initiatives now, as Professor Wang was saying, that will prove very valuable for the future of our university. And I read recently that we're getting our first doctoral program at NEIU, so that big building that is being built next door, I think it's the College of Education, and they're getting their first doctoral program. So I'm very excited about that. I really think that a PhD is for anyone who wants one, because research truly needs more voices like our own. That said, the PhD is not something that you just do. You do it because you genuinely love research or you want to teach eventually. If you all have taken a class with Dr. Shaw, she received her PhD recently from Northwestern. In fact, she was a professor there, not a professor, a teaching assistant there for one of the first courses that I took when I transferred from NEIU to Northwestern. Or you do a PhD because something in society really upsets you and you want to do something about it. Like, have you ever noticed how technology tends to work, or a piece of technology, for a select few group of people, but not people like you or your parents? For example, this is a really famous one. If you've ever had trouble getting the sensor to work for you and you have darker skin tones, like when you're in the bathroom and you're like, why isn't the sensor turning on for me? That's because sensors are known to be faulty for people with darker skin tones. It's not supposed to be that way. It just means whoever created them didn't think about you. But you can be in that room and think about you. And maybe it's not so bad when you're just trying to wash your hands or dry your hands, but when it's like a watch, this is also a thing, Apple's trying to solve this, but if you wear a wearable and it's supposed to help you track like how healthy you are, how many things you do, sure, it's tracking, but it's not working as well for you as it's working for other people. And this is the one that I heard at a conference before when I was here at NEIU, and like really pushed me to go get a PhD. So like asthma medication, the inhalers that children use were primarily studied with like white children, so they don't work as well for the rest of us. Or did you know that in cardiology research, it primarily has included historically men over women, so when women have cardiac problems, the research that's out there helps us less than it does our other like male people. Or maybe it's not a social issue that pushes you to do research and do a PhD. Maybe you're just a very curious person and you're like, how do cameras work and how do we make cameras better? Or some other technical thing that really drives you. But not one single person can address all of these things. But if enough of us care about it collectively, then we can do something about it. And you may wonder, like all these examples that I shared, not all of them are about technology, but that's not true. What we do as computer scientists touches every facet of society. Therefore, what the skills that you have and are developing can have an impact across different areas of health. Health especially, because it's being integrated a lot right now with clinicians and patient care. So if you think the PhD could be a path forward for you, the unique way that you think, the unique way that you understand the world, the things that get under your skin, and your problem-solving skills are all needed in science. You have knowledge that can help the future of technology, and more broadly science, serve us and not just a few people. But whatever your dream is, if it's not research, if it's not a PhD, you want to find your way to it. And if you don't know what that is yet, but that's fine. But you need to make sure that you're trying all combinations of things while you're here and figuring that out for yourself so that you know where you want to go next and what you need to do now to go there and be successful when you get there. I've had a lot of support, obviously. I hope that's clear. I've had mentors who saw like the dedication that I put into my work and told me it's actually a skill. I've had professors who helped me. It pointed me towards opportunities when I asked for them. But as a student, we want to be proactive because as Professor Chava announced to our class once, you need to think of me as a resource and please make use of it. Your professors are resources. You want to go to office hours and get tutoring. I'm not very good at math. So when I was taking math here, I spent a lot of hours at the math tutoring center. The people here at NEIU and the resources that we have on this campus are here to serve you. The health services, the tutoring spaces, your peers, and the social events. But making use of those services is what's going to help you feel like you belong here and you can define a purpose for yourself. So take advantage of those and use them. And if you're sitting here today thinking you're just getting a skill to go get a job, I really want you to reconsider. You're building the muscles for something much bigger, and not knowing how shouldn't stop us. And if you found resources that are working for you, I encourage you to be the support that you wish you had earlier on. It's really not meant to be transactional, but it does tend to come back to you in very unexpected ways. So exactly a month ago, I completed my PhD proposal. That's what you say you're going to do to finish your PhD to a committee, a group of PhD holders, and then you do the work that you say you're going to do, and they approve it, hopefully, and then you graduate. So I also want to share what it's been like at Northwestern these last 4 years or so. So here's some about that. So when you do a PhD, you form part of a lab. You have an advisor who is your mentor for the duration of the PhD, and you have lab mates, and these are other PhD students like yourself. You have weekly meetings to show your progress or ask questions on things that you're stuck on. And then you do have to pick a subfield of computer science to specialize in the PhD. So at Northwestern, we have things like, some of these are new actually. So artificial intelligence and machine learning, computer engineering, human-computer interaction, and that's where I'm specializing, information visualization, programming languages. They just added quantum science and engineering, robotics, security and privacy, systems and networking, theory, vision and graphics. There's a big list to pick from for what you want to do your PhD in. Other universities will likely have something similar if they have a doctoral program. And if you may want to specialize in something that is CS plus something else, so like CS plus learning sciences is something I considered. Learning sciences is like, how do we learn computer science? or you might blend it with health, which is what I'm doing. And those are just some options. You can get really creative. I also applied to like the computational cognitive science PhD at Johns Hopkins, which I considered, but then ended up staying at Northwestern. I also want to show, like, the PhD is basically a series of projects that follow the scientific method. And I'll talk to you. But it's basically, you make an observation, so you notice a pattern, something interesting, or a problem that annoys you in the world. And then you ask a question about it, something measurable that you can answer through the work that you're going to do. You do some background research, like you review what's known about that problem, because your goal is to add to what is known, as we saw in that circle earlier. And then you maybe form a hypothesis, like you're like, I think this problem happens because this, or I think we're gonna find out this other thing. And then you design and carry out a study. Once you have carried out your study, you have data to analyze. And depending on the field that you're in, like the subfield of CS, your data will look different. And then you communicate what you find. So like maybe you'll write a paper, you'll do presentations on how your work adds to what's already known about that problem. Those are the steps for the project that I take, more or less. And you might then communicate your findings in a variety of ways. So as researchers, this usually means writing a research paper, and don't worry, you get help with this. And you publish it in some journal, or you present it at a conference. You may go to a lot of research conferences as a PhD student. So in this picture here, I'm presenting not the final result, but early findings from my research at the University of Limerick in Ireland. And earlier, when I started my PhD, I conducted a smaller study which resulted in this journal publication. And this is about how AI is impacting the workflow of doctors and nurses in cardiology specifically. And then along the way of your PhD, you take a few more classes. So usually it's like intro to the PhD, seminar courses. It just means like you read some stuff and you talk about it with like 10 other people or so to have a discussion. You do, if you have special interest classes, maybe you want to reinforce from undergrad, or new courses that you're interested at your university, you take a couple of those. I took some HCI and AI courses, for example, and then you just get your master's. When you're in a PhD track, it's optional to go get that master's, but like you're there, why not just get it? Especially if you're the first in your family to get it. So that takes like a year into your PhD, a year and a half. You also do internships during the PhD. So my most recent internship was with Microsoft. That meant that I was living and working in Redmond, Washington for 12 weeks. So Microsoft provided housing and travel to and from Redmond. And it basically, the research follows the scientific method that we saw earlier, but because you're in an industry setting, you work with data scientists, other researchers, so not researchers just with your background, but researchers with other background, product managers, and all of these people help you conduct your research and your project. But the mentorship that you get at internships can go beyond the internship. For example, Jenna, my manager, she is a senior applied scientist in software engineering, and we've continued to stay in touch. You can probably tell by these pictures, but she's extremely supportive. And because we have very similar personalities and we did such good work together, we still text nonstop. She's also on my PhD committee. So like I said earlier, a PhD committee is like people that evaluate you as a PhD student, and they're like, okay, you're ready to graduate. So hopefully she says that at next spring when I defend. And then you just graduate. She had 2 interns. So she had us over at her house. Her husband is the chef, and they cooked this really big feast. And there were a lot of intern events as well. And I really wanted to go to all of them, but because I really wanted to do a good job, I picked the few that I went to and then did mostly work. out of my time there with Jenna, this paper came out of it. It has been accepted to the International Conferences Software Engineering. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to go present this research there. And I want to highlight here, I think you're a product manager, right? Program manager? Yes. So in software engineering, we think developers are the key stakeholders, right? But there are a lot of key people that bring software together. So like there's data scientists, designers, product managers. We have a growing body of research on like how Gen AI is affecting software engineering, but not so much on product managers. So I studied the use of AI by product managers in this paper. I also wrote a magazine article because communicating your research goes beyond like these very jargon-heavy, dense academic papers, and that will be published last spring. And I also made this funny sticker that I'll hand out at the conference because I think it's a fun way to share your science. I ordered them last week. They'll be arriving soon, so if you want one, let me know. I'll get you one. You might also choose to do, beyond conferences, attend networking events with other PhD students from across the world and more senior researchers. Here, my peers and I are at the Computing Research Association for Women and a graduate cohort. These used to take place separately, but now they combined them into one. When I attended, it happened in San Francisco, and the other one happened in Denver. And I've also been to one in Minnesota. But basically, you do a variety of things. They talk to you about how to publish your research, they review your resume, how to deal with challenges in the PhD. You might present a research poster on your research. And we also do non-work things. So there are parties and people do go dancing, and you meet other PhDs from other universities and find collaborators for your research. And sometimes researchers from these big industry companies also go there and talk to you about what it's like to do their work, like I'm doing now, but talking about my PhD down the street. I realize now that's not there. The PhD, you can attend CRA as a PhD or a master's student. So if you're a master's student or are thinking about going into a master's, you can also apply to attend this. The application opens in the fall, and they cover your flight and your hotel room, and you go to these very valuable events. Here I am attending the Tapia conference. This one happened in DC this time. This is very similar to the SACNAS conference that I attended while here at NEIU. When I was here at NEIU, we attended with the SCSC, the Student Center for Science Engagement. In that time, it took place in Hawaii. But a lot of these conferences, like Tapia and SACNAS, are important to attend as undergraduate students because a lot of doing science is just believing that you can do science, that you can see yourself doing science. And I think these conferences show you like how much our voices are missing from those spaces, but how possible it really is for you to do that if you want to do that. These conferences, I think, help you form a mental model of what it's like to be a researcher too. And for example, they show you very scary statistics. Like if you look up the statistics on, for example, how many Latinos or how many Latinas more specifically have a PhD in STEM, specifically in CS, it's pretty sad. So they paint a picture. It's not all sad, but they also paint a picture of science. So you may also choose to do things like volunteer at conferences. So I volunteered at this conference, UBComp, which took place in Mexico. So I'm originally from Mexico. This was one of the few times that I have been back to Mexico, so that was really rewarding. I also volunteered at a local conference that year it took place here in Chicago. That's the Interaction Design for Children conference. And you also volunteer as a reviewer. As you are gaining this expertise in your field, you become a reviewer of papers that are written in your field by other researchers. And we also have a bunch of student activities around Northwestern and any kind of university like we do here at Northeastern. So we have things like the computer science social initiative. A lot of people that go to a PhD, like I just happen to be local to Northwestern Chicagoland area, but a lot of people that go to the PhD are not local to the area. And so we organize a lot of events like Hot Pot, go to Chinatown, go to museums, have picnics, things like that. Those things help build community. We also have a group called Graduate Women in Computing, so we organize lunches, talk about what it's like, but it's also for other gender minorities. And I often volunteer during PhD visit day. So if you were to apply to a PhD program and you get in, you will likely be asked to attend what is called visit day, and they'll fly you out to wherever the university is, put you up in a hotel. For example, when I applied to Johns Hopkins, it was during lockdown, so that didn't happen, but for you, that would happen. And I also mentor students formally and informally around campus. And lastly, this quarter, I also served as, you are expected to be a teaching assistant for an instructor, but I actually was the professor for a course this last quarter at Northwestern. We have quarters instead of semesters. So I taught 50 undergraduate and graduate students, guiding them through a quarter-long design project. I organized a panel, a lot like the one today, for the students, and Dr. Shah actually was one of the people who I invited to talk about what it's like to be an HCI expert. And what's next? So from now until spring 2020, I'll be working on my dissertation. And then next month, like I shared, I'll be going to Rio to present that paper on product management's use of Gen AI. I've also been applying to summer research internships, but we know how hard summer research or internships in general are to get, so I'll let you know if I get one. If I don't get one, then I'll be on campus at Northwestern working on my proposed work. And then I've received a grant to go to Italy at the Participatory Design Conference in June. I'm also going to be going to this new conference called Interactive Health Conference in Portugal in July. And then in November, I'll be in Utah for another conference that is pretty well established. If all goes well, in spring 2027, I'll be defending my dissertation, and then I will graduate in summer 2027. So with that, I hope that this provides some insight into how you, while here at NEIU, are building a future by being actively engaged at Northeastern. Thank you for listening to my talk.
At this point, thank you so much, Mara. It's very, very inspiring talk, and we want to hear more success stories from you in the near future, from all of you, from all of our alumni. At this point, I want to open it for questions. Raise your hand if you have a question, and we'll bring the microphone to you. Any questions for Mara?
You pay attention to what Professor Chava just said. Any questions? Okay, any questions about your personal career, probably your personal life? This is very inspiring presentation, and I think it also resonates with your personal life, right? Mara is a very typical NEIU student. She was a very typical NEIU student, and she represents our student population, our student body. And so I'm pretty sure that her experience can actually be very inspirational to some of our students here, if not all of us, right? She has been through challenges, she has been through this great experiences with our faculty members, and that's exactly most of our students are also experiencing. So that's why I'm saying, any questions? Any? Sure.
Hi, I'm interested in, you said you did some research at Northwestern Hospital. with the AI in healthcare. I'm interested in that because that's the field I'm looking to study on. So anything more on that, like what projects did you do when you were there? Yeah.
You're interested in learning more about health-related projects with AI? Is that what you
Yes.
mean?
Yes, I used to work in radiology,
Hmm.
so now I'm switching my majors, yeah. So I'm interested to see what's happening. Yeah.
I can tell you a little bit about the work that is being done there. So, in order for us to know like where AI can be useful in these clinical spaces, we have to really know things like, for example, how people work right now. So, like the workflow of nurses, the workflow of doctors, similar to how it's impacting industry. We're seeing like the push for generative AI to be used across industry, right? But without real use cases, it's kind of this like push without any real merit or like real substance. Similarly, in the space of like hospitals and with doctors, really knowing where it's going to be useful is really valuable. That like HCI angle. But if you're more interested, the human computer interaction research angle, but if you're more interested in the AI research itself, like the use of data to train certain models, that is also a really valuable space, right? A lot of data that is collected in hospitals is very messy, right? Like it's written or the quality of the radiology images is not clear how to train the model, and you're translating the expertise of doctors into this model that is like a machine like that you're programming, and that translation loses a lot of there's a lot of lost information or knowledge from how does a doctor make a diagnosis based on an x-ray or a set of x-rays. Knowing that about the doctor and translating it into how a model can on its own predict like, oh, this patient because of their x-ray is likely to end up having this disease is really valuable research. And I think if you are interested in that, it's something that you could pursue, and even like read more about it, look up at the labs that we have at Northwestern, but don't limit yourself there. Like there are a lot of labs in the United States or worldwide that do this kind of research. I would also encourage like don't be afraid to email these people. I apply this a lot. Like I cold email industry people, and some don't get back to me, and some do. And the ones that do, I like end up having internships with them. Like that's what I did with Jenna and like other people that I've been talking to. So like just reach out and learn. There are also so the PhD you have to apply like late fall, but you start preparing for applying like summer, spring. So around now, start looking into like what universities would have a program that I might be interested in, and you can reach out to the professors there or go to what are called information sessions that they tend to give in the summer for those programs and ask more of the questions that you have. But I fully support your venture into that field.
Thank you. Another question? Questions can come from alumni as well. So if our alumni have any questions, please let me know.
Hi, my name is Ray, and I have a dumb question for you. I just wanted to know that how do you overcome on something that you felt it might be a subject or topic or whatever that you felt it's not understandable? How do you overcome on something like this?
Like when you take a class and it doesn't make sense.
It could be anything. It could be a subject, it could be a course, it could be a certificate, whatever.
I think my strategy has always been like, if it's a course or if it's something I read and it doesn't make sense, identify the areas where that like understanding breaks down for me and make a list of questions of like, what doesn't make sense? Why doesn't it make sense? And then I've said this before when I've come here before, but like literally stalk your professors or find the people that do know. Or go sit in the tutoring rooms and just do your homework there, and the questions come up in your mind. Ask them to the people that do know, because like I said, no one knows everything, but someone else knows something that you don't know. So go find those answers. It's totally normal not to have all of the answers.
George?
Hi. Um, if I'm looking for a PhD program, how do I better choose which institution to get? Because you said you're between Northwestern and Hopkins.
Mhm.
Why would you choose Northwestern over the other one?
So the PhD is it's a commitment of 5 years, right? Who you work with, I think you're thinking the right way about like what's the best fit for me. When you apply to these PhD programs, first of all, go to the McNair Scholars Program. They have strategies on how to like apply. So I applied to 3 tiers of like programs that I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get into that, like that you feel very confident because they're not super competitive. Then some that you're like, I'm probably not getting to that. And then you're like, I'm definitely not getting to that. And it'll be surprising the ones you get into. But in the ones that you are admitted to, will invite you for an interview. It's basically talking to the lab, like the advisor that you might have. That is a really good time. And this happens too when we apply for jobs and internships, right? Like when we're interviewing, they're interviewing us, but we're also getting a sense of who they are and how we would fit in that leadership or team or like type of projects that they do. So when you have those interviews, that's your real opportunity to see like, how are these people going to treat me and are they really going to guide me? And that helps you narrow down. But maybe what's more important to you is like the research that you're going to be doing. So different labs will approach research differently depending on the research that you want to do. Then maybe you might choose based on that. And if you are not entirely sure, because I wasn't sure what kind of research I was going to do entirely, I knew I wanted it to be human-centered research of CS, but I didn't know specifically what I wanted to do. It's okay to go into the program and accept it, and then you're supposed to figure it out in the first year. So if you get several acceptance letters and you need more advice on which one to pick, you can email me and we can talk about it. But for then, I think that helps.
Thank you. Another question?
Yes. Um, as we all know, we are a small university,
Yeah.
and of course, Northwestern is a large university, and that could be a challenge attending to a larger group of classes. But we also know that Northeastern Illinois University is affordable.
Yeah.
The investment that you have, you at the end you don't have to pay that much debt, and it's just you get your degree and everything is wonderful. But how could you afford to go to Northwestern University?
That's a really good question. Sorry I didn't include that in my presentation. But actually, a PhD pays you to go to college. You don't pay them. So most universities, anyway, who offer a PhD, you get a salary, you get health insurance. Northwestern, because we literally rioted, now has a union as well. So you don't pay, when you go into a master's, you often do have to pay for your master's degree. It's tuition based. When you go into a PhD, especially at like a bigger university like Northwestern, the tuition is covered by the university. Getting a fellowship like the one from the NSF that I have is a cherry on top. It's very unnecessary, but it makes you look good. And so like you don't need to pay tuition when you go to a PhD for a lot of universities. Some universities, like I did apply to the University of, I don't know, middle of the country somewhere. I don't even remember. But they would expect you to pay for tuition, but it will say on their website, like we cover our students for the duration of the 5 years. So that's not something to worry about. I would worry about like setting up your application and applying and getting in to those kinds of universities where you don't have to pay. In fact, they pay you, which was really shocking for me when I learned about that. Now I have other thoughts about it now that I'm there, but but you don't have to pay tuition for a PhD, so that's not something I would worry about.
Yeah, you just have to worry about your living expenses and rent and stuff.
Right,
like
like you still have like to have pocket money, but you can. You can have a small job. I know one of my friends is living in like the graduate housing, and she helps with like running that place, and so that's how she pays for her rent. They just give it to her, or like they pay her.
And I have one more question, very short. In few words and sentences, what make you get where you are in, it has motivation, persistency, all those skills that maybe
hard.
you acquire?
Sometimes I do feel unmotivated, but that's why when you go into the PhD, it's like you go into it because you really want to do research or because eventually you want to teach. You have to have like a goal for yourself or why you're going into it, because it does get tough. I mean, like a bachelor's, right? Like we're like, oh, that class is really hard. Nothing's making sense. So it is good to have those things and have a life outside of your PhD, a little bit of a life, things that feed you, like if you like working out or if you like spending time with your family, like those things are still important. But I think wherever you go, and probably the rest of the people here will tell you, like, we all get a little unmotivated sometimes, and it's on you to like find what motivates you, what feeds you to keep you going.
I'm gonna have to say something about Mara. You probably forgot to say this about yourself. Curiosity. Mara was one of my really, really curious students when she started at NEIU, and that's something
Yeah,
I
stay
always
nosy.
think.
You
I
want
always
to
think it was the
be nosy.
motivator for you. All right, we have another question.
Yes, thank you. So I actually have a follow-up question regarding the tuition. So let's say I'm somebody that works in the industry and I want to get a PhD at Northwestern. From a little bit of research I've done, most universities, if you do a part-time PhD, then you do have to pay them. They don't pay you because you don't have time to be a teacher assistant or be a full-time researcher. Do you know what that looks like at Northwestern?
Unfortunately, I don't know too much about that because PhDs do tend to expect that you go full time because they are, it's a job. Like the PhD is considered a job. You have the PhD student title for the first couple of years, then you become a PhD candidate after the first couple of years. But it really is a job that you're supposed to work 40 hours a week. So it is hard to do it part time. I know some universities do offer that. I don't know if Northwestern does, but if you want to go do a PhD and you have industry experience, that is actually seen as really valuable. You don't have to go straight from the bachelor's to a PhD, though I would recommend it because then you go into industry and maybe you're not as likely to come back. But if you have industry experience already and are considering a PhD in something that relates to what you already do, you have world knowledge, like real experience to bring back into the PhD, and that is also a really valuable path.
Any other questions?
Hello, my name is Muhammad and it's my first semester here. I just have a basic question like what skills did you have like when you were starting out early in your career?
What skills, is that what you said, did I have that helped me? You mean like before coming to NEIU or after leaving NEIU?
At NEIU or after NEIU?
I think like anything you don't know you can learn, right? We're here to learn. The skills that really matter, and maybe Professor Chava already beat me to it, is like being curious, being dedicated, seeking out resources. Like if you're lost and you're not sure how to move forward, whether that's your homework or in your career, we have resources here. And if you've gone to them and you feel like they weren't helpful, find somebody else. There's always somebody else who has the answers and helps you do that. So like being proactive, being curious, asking the questions, those skills will be helpful, not just now, but like throughout your life. Technical skills, those can be developed, as you know, like you can learn anything that you set your mind to.
Thank you.
Another question?
Hi. So I had quite a journey in my bachelor's experience. I've transferred 3 times, and hopefully, if all goes well, I graduate in December. But because I transferred so much, I wasn't able to dedicate the time into like the clubs and all this extra stuff that the resources in the university. So in the short amount of time that I have, I mean, we're already halfway done with this semester, and like I've been trying to be more active at NEIU, but I mean, I just don't feel like I have much time, and I'm trying to get an internship for the summer. But what can I do now with the time that I have here?
I think because if you do feel like you have limited time, and I can totally relate to that, especially when I was at Harold Washington, um, then you want to pick something that will help you get where you want to go. Like whether that's, do you need more help with tutoring? Do you need more friends to make you feel like you belong, like peers like yourself? Do you need more time with professors? Um, I remember there was like something that happened in my family while I was here, and Professor Chava knew that, and he like made time for me to talk to him outside of like the office hours that he had said. So if you need those kinds of accommodations and you're showing the initiative and you're dedicated, people are more willing to like bend the rules and meet you, or like set up a virtual call, like it could be late or like whatever, to give you guidance to help you not lose like that momentum that you have. You're about to graduate. That's really exciting. Maybe pick one thing that you want to do while you're still here that you have the time for, that will help you look back at your years at NEIU as like, oh, that was actually like a really wonderful thing that I did. I still have friends, for example, from the clubs that I joined. Now they've moved across the world, but we're still friends. Whatever you want to keep from your time at NEIU, maybe pick that one thing and try to do a little bit of it. And if people get to know you and they know that you have these time constraints and limitations, they'll be more understanding of your situation.
Any other questions? We have like a couple more minutes.
Hi. You mentioned you were a DACA recipient.
Yeah.
So, being said that, do you feel that kind of set you back a little bit in your courses? And if so, how did being DACA also help, build that resilience for you to get into a PH and any other classes, right?
Yeah.
Like, how does that help you?
I don't know that, like, it definitely impacted me because, like, as a DACA recipient, you don't get financial aid. Like, when I was at Harold Washington, it did impact, like, the classes that I could take while I was there. And that's partially why I was going full-time, right? You could go to the classes you can afford. But now we have a lot more scholarships, and I think there's financial support from the state. Like, it's been a while for me. But the classes themselves, I don't think it impacted me. I definitely wasn't talking about being a DACA student before coming to NEIU because I didn't know a lot of students with that background. And so I didn't feel as confident sharing that because I didn't think people would understand. When I was here at NEIU, I was still a DACA student, and that's why I had that scholarship from the Dream.us. And I know there are other scholarships like Golden Gate Scholars at other like states. But luckily, when I transferred to Northwestern, like I did apply for like residency, which I now have, and that has made things a lot better. But I wouldn't let like your status. I think a lot of people have a similar status. They just don't talk about it, especially at our university here. Like make you feel like you don't belong in these classrooms because you do. You're there to learn. This university is made for people like us. Like if you're first generation or if like college is too expensive or you have kind of a weird immigration status, like you would do, that's why you're here. That's why this university exists. Like that it's for us. So as far as classes, I wouldn't let that make me feel like out of place. In fact, if you go to these student clubs and things like that, like the Pedroso Center, I don't know if it's still there, but like you meet a lot more people who have your background and you feel more like you belong here.
We can take one more question, maybe two.
Hi, it's me again. So a PhD program is based on research, right? You choose a topic or anything that you're interested in.
Yep.
Choose a problem, and based on the research, you looking for an answer to that problem. So, and then you defend your PhD. So what's the future like after you know the answer to the problem you're looking for? What's the future like?
For you or for the research?
For the research, for you. Maybe
So,
it's more like a personal question.
Yeah, so for the research, I think you expand that circle of knowledge, right? But you expand it ever so slightly. Like you finish a PhD and it's really humbling because you're like, you realize how much you don't know. And even though you solved a problem and you've added knowledge to something, like it's never going to be enough. There's a lot more to know. Like with generative AI, right? It's impacting everything in society. If you're curious about how it's impacting some area of society or how you might advance the performance of generative AI in some part of society, you could go do that. But it doesn't stop there, right? Like our technologies, computer science as a field is always evolving and it's merging. It blends so well with so many things in our communities that you could literally take it any direction. So if you pick a topic for the PhD and then you realize I don't want to do this topic anymore after my PhD, that's kind of my situation. Like not because I don't want to do it, but maybe you can tell by my presentation I have too many interests. Like I always want to learn something new. You can pivot to the next thing. So someone asked me like, what are you going to do after your PhD? I'm going to apply to like faculty jobs, sure, but I'm also going to apply to industry. I'm going to apply to international postdocs, and that's like more research. And it can go in different directions. It's really up to you to drive like, what do I want to do next with all these skills? You have skills from your bachelor's, you have skills from your PhD. It's really, you're like the architect of your career once you finish the PhD and like the problem is going to be picking what to do because there's so many options.
Question? Last question. All right. Thank you so much, Mara.
Thank you.